Do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe in ETs, extraterrestrials? Do you believe that there are aliens that visit us, that possibly are among us? Let's talk about that. Hello there, Enchanted One, and welcome to Spirit Throw Me a Bone, your spiritual lifestyle channel, where every week we come together to cultivate our connection with the Enchanted Universe and coax Spirit to throw us a bone. And we do this in three ways. First, we create sacred space and we signal our intention to receive gifts from Spirit. Second, we flex our enchantment muscles and consult the oracles of astrology and the tarot and other divinatory tools. And third, we welcome young self. And with a beginner's mind, we explore all manner of metaphysical and consciousness-raising topics. And that's what we are going to do tonight. We are going to explore with our return guest, Mady Tobias, aka Mady, the topic of UFOs and extraterrestrials. And I am so pleased to be welcoming her back with us again tonight. Welcome, Mady.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you. It's fun to be back.
Well, I have a confession to make because during like the last minute of the countdown, I'm scrambling around looking for your bio, and I know it's here somewhere because I had it just the other day, but I forgot to pull it up. So let me see. I'm going to look really quickly and see if I can find it. And if I can't quickly find it, we're just going to do it without. Ah, I found it. Okay. Okay, so I did want to introduce Mady to some of you who may not be familiar with her. So here we go. Mady Tobias. She is a retired clinical specialist in adult psychiatric and mental health nursing and has had a long career working with individuals recovering from traumatic events in destructive cults, sexual trauma, and trauma while serving in the military. In private practice for over 20 years, she later worked for the Veterans Administration in one of their vet centers in White River Junction, Vermont, as clinical coordinator and military sexual trauma specialist from 1994 until her retirement in 2012. At the vet center, she participated in a team supporting and debriefing Veterans Administration witnesses of 9/11 in New York City and New Jersey. She helped to organize the VA's Horses for Heroes program and was a speaker at several vet center regional conferences on a variety of therapy issues. During this time, she became an approved consultant in eye motion desensitization and reprocessing, also known as EMDR, in the treatment of PTSD. Currently residing in Loudoun County, Virginia, Mady is a Reiki master practitioner, and pre-COVID, she volunteered giving Reiki to patients and their families at both a local hospice organization and a hospital. She is on the advisory board of the Loudoun Medical Reserve Corps, preparing for potential disasters and medical emergencies. She has become a contact tracer during the COVID-19 pandemic. She's also a member of the Shenandoah chapter of the Virginia Master Naturalist Program, volunteering for a variety of jobs helping and preserving wildlife in Virginia. Her special joy is monitoring the bluebird boxes and nests in one of the state parks during the nesting season in the spring and summer. She is a fellow bird nerd. So Mady organized a group of friends in a monthly animal communication circle, helping others with understanding both their pets and the animals in the natural world. She is also a field investigator for the Mutual UFO network and serves on the experiencer research team assisting those who report contact with non-human intelligences. As an author, she co-wrote with Janya Lalek, Captive Hearts, Captive Minds, and Take Back Your Life. She has written chapters on recovery issues in recovery from cults and cult recovery A Clinician's Guide to Working with Former Members and Families, both for the International Cultic Studies Association. And she has spoken on these issues in both US and Canada. She has contributed a chapter for Kathleen Marden's book, Extraterrestrial Contact, What to Do When You've Been Abducted, and How to Cope with Contact by Non-Human Entities. She has presented at both US and Canadian conferences for many years on recovery issues, initially for the International Cultic Studies Association, and then for the Readjustment Counseling Services at their annual convention for vet center staff. She has appeared on multiple TV and radio shows, including First Edition, Sally Jesse Raphael, and Oprah Winfrey. I'm exhausted.
Gee, who is that? Who is that person? I don't know her. I think we got to shorten that bio there, Brenda.
I know. I was just like, oh, okay. I'll just keep reading. So our friend Robin says hello tonight.
Hi, Robin.
And your friend and mine, Anne, says hello.
Hi, Anne.
To the bio going, I don't have all day. Oh, my goodness. Hey, guys. So, I'm feeling a little ungrounded myself right now. And we don't always create sacred space when I have a guest or whatnot, but I'd really like to do that now. So if you will just indulge me for a moment, and we're going to create sacred space. So we'll do this together and we'll just do it really quickly. I'm not going to run the music or anything like that, but I definitely want to light those candles and call in the powers. So let's do that now. Get to the right camera. All right. I'll take my mic with me. Okay, guys. All right. So this is sacred time for us. Let's settle in before we get to our exciting interview with Mady, talking about these ungrounded matters. We're going to ground ourselves a little bit and then call in the directions. So deep breath. Whew. We're creating a sacred container, a circle, and I'm going to call in the directions as we do that. And I'm going to turn off Maddie's mic because I can hear her rummaging around there. Hold on. Okay. I don't want to forget. I know you'll remind me if I forget to turn her mic back on. Okay. All right, here we go, guys. By the air that is her breath, welcome east. By the fire of her bright spirit, welcome south. By the waters of her living womb, welcome west. And by the earth that is her body, welcome north. As above, so below, we are in sacred space. Okay, I feel much better now.
Good.
All right, Mady, where are we going to start?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, well, what I do want to say is keep the comments coming, guys. Glad to know when everybody arrives, and certainly if you're new, let us know. Hello, Miss Kathleen. You're back for more Mady, aren't we all? Yeah. And if in case I forget to thank you at the end, Mady, I want to thank you right now for being here with us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome.
So we really want to be able to open this up to questions for all of you guys.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
Mady will tell her stories and she will explain and educate us. But keep the questions coming, and then I'll bring them in as they appear or they fit in the conversation.
Okay.
So Yeah, like, well, let's just start like from the beginning in terms of your experience with this topic, UFOs, extraterrestrials.
Mhm. Yeah,
Something
that's fine. I think that's
something got you
appropriate.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought about UFOs or extraterrestrials at all. I was very involved in doing my work. I got out of this cult, as we talked about last time I was on, recovered and started lecturing, writing books, and then worked for the Veterans Administration. Only after I retired in 2012, I was still working with the International Cultic Studies Association, lecturing and writing for them and presenting. And it was in 2015 that I made a trip to New Mexico. Every 2 years, ICSA has a conference in Santa Fe. I met up with some friends in their home in Dulce, New Mexico. They were social workers working for the Native Americans, the Hickory Apaches, on the reservation in Dulce, New Mexico. And so I visited them. So they said, okay, let's go to Chaco. So we went up north to Chaco, which is an incredible ancient civilization that died out, 600 years ago. But it was an incredible ancient civilization of Native Americans. And then we went on to the conference in in Santa Fe. But before that, they live in Dulce, and it's very Dulce. I found out by Googling Dulce is famous for this mesa that overlooks the town. It's called Archuleta Mesa. And legend had it that the United States military and and certain alien civilizations were doing research for decades in and underneath Archuleta Mesa. When I found that out, I couldn't believe it. Oh, come on, give me a break. But when I was in Dulce, we met with the Native Americans in the tribe, and they talked to me about their experiences of exploring around the mesa, seeing UFOs and seeing military aircraft all around the mesa. And in addition to that, there were cattle mutilations on the ranches around that area. So that got me intrigued. I joined MUFON to find out more. MUFON is Mutual UFO Network, and there's a state organization chapter in Virginia. And I went to their meetings, and wow, that's interesting. I mean, this is so totally new to me. And I got involved. I started reading everything I could about UFOs, et cetera, et cetera. And they said, why don't you become a field investigator since you're a mental health person? We could use someone who's really grounded to help in this research and when people report UFOs. So I said, okay, and I did. I became a field investigator, and I also became involved in the experience of research team, which now you got to think of MUFON as having two arms. One arm is the nuts and bolts investigation of sightings of unknown. The other arm, smaller, much smaller, maybe a finger, much smaller part of MUFON is the experience of research team, which deals with people who are inquiring about their contact experiences with extraterrestrials or their abductions, reported abductions, or possible abductions by extraterrestrials. And since 2016, when I became part of the team, I must have talked to 200 or 300 individuals who reported such events happening in their life. So that's how I got involved in MUFON. My own experiences, though I've never seen a UFO except in my dreams, involved regressions into past lives where I have lived on other planets and other star systems. And that freaked me out when I first found that out. So, because I certainly didn't expect that. So that's my background, so to speak. And since that time, I wrote my book, which I recommend to everyone, that anyone who's had weird experiences in their lives, like I have, that are unexplainable, seemingly unrelated, write them down, journal your dreams, and they'll start to make sense. So that's what I did. I wanted to understand myself and how I came to be the person who I am today. There we go.
So, but isn't there a story? I've heard you tell it, and it's in the book too. About, I'm just trying to put together the pieces now. Where you were in New Mexico, or you were traveling back there for a conference or something, and you had tried to order a book, and
Oh,
the book
yeah.
wouldn't come.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, when I heard about Dulce, New Mexico, I Googled it. And that's when I heard that there were aliens there. I said, come on, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. So they mentioned it when I Googled it, that there was a book written by Anthony Sanchez called The UFO Highway. Oh, okay. I'll try to find that book. So I went on Amazon. It wasn't even, it was listed, but not available anywhere at any price, zero. There were no copies available. Now, if you go on Amazon looking for a book, even if the book is out of print, you could find booksellers, used booksellers who have copies who sell it. Nothing. It was totally off the market. So I got in touch with Sanchez. I Googled him, or I don't remember how I got in touch with him, maybe Facebook, I don't know. And I said, I wanted a copy of your book. He says, well, just get in touch with the printer and they'll send you a copy. So I did that. I got in touch with the printer for $25. They were going to send me a copy. Well, 6 weeks later, the copy never came. The book never came, The UFO Highway. And so I called up and I said, what happened? I ordered the book and I never received it. And they said, oh, the post office returned it saying you refused it. I said, I didn't refuse it. I never even got it. Okay, we'll send you another one. So a few weeks later, I still hadn't received it. I called again. They said, okay, this happens sometimes. Now, is that not weird that the United States government would not allow me to get a copy of his book? Twice. So there was going to be a conference in Dulce, and Anthony Sanchez was going to speak, and he said, I'll bring you a copy. And he did. And that's how I got my copy of the book. So the book is a story of a colonel who was a behavioral scientist who worked underground in Archuleta Mesa, who was a mental health person who took care of the soldiers who worked there under huge amount of stress. And if you can get a copy of the UFO Highway, this colonel who's unidentified, he's in hiding because he revealed the secret stuff, in incredible first-person accounts of what actually went on underground, several stories underground in the Mesa of testing and research on human beings that was being done by extraterrestrials and the military.
And the military.
Oh, yes, and the military. Yeah.
Like in collaboration?
Yes. And there are many stories of the military, the U.S. government collaborating with extraterrestrial species.
Ah.
And that was the first one I had heard about, but there are many others. And underground bases underneath United States military facilities. You've heard of Area 51 and other areas like that are owned by the military and access is not allowed in.
Right, right.
So that's one aspect of it that, of course, I never investigated, obviously. But when I was at the conference there, I did meet Sanchez. He was invited to speak about his work in the book. He never said a word. He was so anxious. He looked like he could use several drinks or a lot of Valium. He'd not say one word about Dulce. I don't even remember what he talked about. It was gibberish. But he would not talk about what he wrote.
Wow.
And what was right there. So I thought it was pretty obvious that he was fearful. Whether he was threatened or what,
Mm-hmm.
He has never talked about it, and his work in the field ended completely after that. So,
So, okay, guys.
tell you.
So I want to get to comments in just a second, but let me just tell you that. So the great thing about Mady, among all of the great things about Mady, is that from my assessment, it's like she's so grounded, and like when she tells me these things and explains these things, it's like even though they sound like far out, like coming from Mady, they're in my mind there's total credibility, right?
Well, thank you.
So so here's like a little funny story, right? So one of my daughters is she's a young adult, and many of you know her, and so she and I had been having these discussions about, um, I guess I don't know. Do you consider like Pleiadians and all that extraterrestrial or whatever? But
Yes, they're
yeah,
not of Earth.
okay. So we had been having these discussions, and she kept going. My daughter kept going back to this thing about reptilians, and they're evil, and they've taken over the government, and they're in Hollywood, and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my god, Francesca. So I said, I have a friend who knows about this kind of stuff, and we're going to go meet her for lunch because I want you to talk to her, get your head on straight. Well, so we go to lunch, and Maddie's like, well, yeah, they're reptilians. I'm like, great, Maddie, great. I was like, I should have interviewed her first, right? So, and then I've never heard the end of it from Francesca. Like, see,
Oh, gee. Well, is she listening today? Is she listening
I don't
today?
know if she is in. It doesn't sound. She would have made a comment if she was on, but I didn't
Okay.
text her. But
Well, since you brought that up, Brenda,
yes,
as you did in your preparation for tonight, you said, as above, so below. So
yes,
this is very important. Consciousness and beings, all of us, including extraterrestrials, are always constantly spiritually growing. All right. Now, the reptilians, they're bad reptilians, and they're also good reptilians. They're not all bad. As a race, they're also evolving. Right now, the Europeans think the Americans are crazy and a lot of us are bad. All right?
mm-hmm.
That's an opinion. I'm not going to say we're good or bad. There's a mixture of all. And we're all growing. And the purpose of that mixture of positive, negative, you could say dark and light, is the encounter, our experiences of negativity or trauma are vehicles for growth. So even the people who have been traumatized, whether it's sexual trauma in childhood or trauma in war, this is the condition of our planet. And we're all in the process of growth in loving, caring, compassion. Some will even say that the virus is a godsend because it causes people to stop, think, care, and love.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so the point I'm trying to make is good, bad, whatever. I believe from the accounts that I've heard in my own background, my own history, my own contacts with extraterrestrials, that the vast majority are here to help us through ascension, through growth, because we're ruining the planet. We're destroying our planet. All these wars, nuclear threats, etc. We're constantly on the verge of war. I mean, if you think about it, the Russians just broke into all our computer systems. I mean, we're constantly fighting. We're constantly on the edge. We are in danger of destroying ourselves. The aliens, or if you want to call it that, are trying to help us to grow and be more humane humans, okay? To be better.
Right. And so this is something that this theory or whatever truth theory whatever that that they're aliens and that they're concerned about our planet and about our civilization and they're really by and large here to help us. But the motivation for that is a subject for debate. Like, why would they care? Why would they care about the Earth? Why would they care about humans? And
Why would we care about the poor? Why would we care about the hungry? Why would we care about those who don't have enough to eat,
right,
who
but
are
that
sick
but
and
that
dying?
but that assumes that, that they have empathy, and that's up
Yes.
for debate, right? But what I
No,
wanted to say before we got into that debate was that, and this is not a mutually exclusive motivation, right? But the Earth is a minuscule part of, you know, the vast
that's
cosmos,
right.
universe,
Yeah.
whatever. But everything is connected. So if the Earth
Yes.
blows up, then that's going to cause problems for the whole system, right?
Well,
So,
for a part of it, yes, you could say that.
right. So in that sense, because everybody is connected, everything, that is a
You're,
motivation for them
you're
to,
talking about, stop for a minute, Brenda.
yeah,
You're talking about the physical. I'm talking about consciousness. I'm talking
right.
about what is not our body, what is not what we eat, is not what we stand on. We are connected. Everything is connected through consciousness.
Mhm.
From your crystals to your deities, to your guides, to everything. We're
Mhm.
all connected.
Mhm.
And that is what's important, not the ores and the metals and the richness of the earth or what we're going to do if we dissolve. The earth has been destroyed many times.
Mhm. Mhm.
We can, there's been an evolution going on for hundreds of thousands or millions of years.
Right. And
The
that's
interest is
right.
not physical.
Right. And that's
The interest is in consciousness.
right. So maybe when you say, like, they're concerned about us because, for example, wouldn't you be concerned about the poor? So it may when you speak of their concern about the survival of the earth because it's part of a ecosystem or whatever you want to call it,
Now,
it could
yeah.
be the ecosystem of consciousness in addition to just the physical material, you know, planet, is what you're saying.
When you say spirit, throw me a bone,
Mm.
that's exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about non-human intelligences.
Mhm.
We're talking about spirit, all of us evolving, both on this planet and other planets.
Mhm.
We don't exist spiritually in a vacuum here.
Mhm.
We are part of a much larger creation.
Mhm.
So when I talk about what their interest is in our spiritual growth. They care. And I have seen endless situations of healing and assistance from non-human intelligences. And they're not that unrelated to all the other spirits, angels, archangels. We're talking about consciousness. So there are levels of consciousness in the creation. And there are also bad parts too. Obviously, there's the yin and yang, the dark and the light, just as there is on Earth. We're talking about growth in consciousness. We're talking about evolution of our spirit, of our heart.
Right. Closer to home, closer
Yeah.
to the source, which is love. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Let's say hi to a couple people, please.
Okay.
Hello, Wendy.
Hi,
And
Wendy.
Patty is back with us. And look who's here.
Hi, Jennifer.
So Jennifer has a lot of thoughts about this topic.
Yeah.
And um okay, so everybody's checked in. Well, me too, Robin. Robin says, I am ready to start traveling to other planets by learning to raise my consciousness. Is that the way that one
Yes.
travels to other planets, Maddie?
Consciousness. Oh, sure. Yeah. I would say again, they're not all the same. If you talk about extraterrestrial intelligences, some have more of a concrete world and some are more ethereal. They're multidimensional, like the angels, archangels. Some of the highly evolved extraterrestrial or non-human intelligences are very highly evolved, and they can be physical, and many extra non-human intelligences can change shape or present themselves in ways that are not as frightening to individuals.
Can you give an
Getting
example?
into the
Can you give like maybe an example of that?
Sure. First of all, they come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are described as tall whites, meaning tall Nordic-looking individuals with light skin and light hair and very tall. Others have been described very commonly as the small grays. Well, the grays with the big heads and the big eyes and maybe a stiffer mouth and little bodies is a common example, a small gray. There are many species of grays, including some that are tall, quite tall, and quite advanced, and others are kind of small and they sort of are robotic. There are, as you mentioned, reptilians. There are, there's an unlimited variety of extraterrestrial life, including undersea dolphin-like or manatee-like beings who live in water worlds.
What was the name of the lady that you referred me to to get the star origin reading?
That's Jacqueline Smith.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Smith does star origins. I
Right.
first became familiar with Jacqueline because she's also an animal communicator. And I don't know if anybody there is familiar with animal communication.
Sure.
Well, if you think about it, we're all connected by consciousness. Some of you are very telepathic. Some of you may channel or do readings, tarot, or Ouija board, or other kind of psychic phenomena. That's because consciousness is out there. Not all of us have the receptors to be able to pick up communication from plants, trees, or animals. But they're all conscious, and if they're conscious, they can communicate. So becoming aware of the intelligence and the consciousness of, and learning how to communicate with animals of all size, all shape, wild and domestic, or trees. A lot of people talk to their plants and trees and get information. Trees communicate with each other through their root systems.
Right.
They protect each other. They nourish each other. They protect each other from invasive species. So there is communication throughout the world that we're not aware of, because we assume that just because we're human, we're superior and we're the only ones with brains and can do anything.
Right.
And that's not true.
The disenchantment of the universe, that attitude. So someone wants to say hi here.
Yeah, Susan.
From earlier today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. And Julie is here. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie. Wow, big crowd today. That's great.
Big crowd.
Well, give me your questions so I don't have to yak so much about myself.
Patty says, totally resonated with Madeline's conscious vibes.
Okay.
So there was a question I did see up here. Okay, so here's Robin talking about being familiar with Corey Good and Dr. Stephen Greer. They speak of an alliance of Earth people and ETs fighting the, quote, deep state. Did you have any comment on that? Are you familiar with these names?
Well, we have to separate a lot of conspiracy theories from the truth, and that's difficult.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
very hard.
You talk to whether it's the truth or conspiracy, right?
Exactly. When you talk about the deep state, right away it raises my alarms, because what exactly are you talking about? Who's doing what to whom? And when we get involved in looking at conspiracies, or, to me, it doesn't really matter how bad or good the government is, or how bad or good people are. If you keep your concerns about what kind of life are you living in a way that's compassionate and loving and caring to others? That's about all you have control over. I got very swept in the news during the election period. Drove me nuts. I must admit, I listened to the news over and over and over and over. And, after it was over, it was still as bad. There was still stuff going on that was awful. So I had to let go of that, Otherwise we get so overwhelmed by the negativity. And anytime we talk about the deep state and the conspiracy state and the cabal and the this and the that, it takes us away from our heart. It takes away from our doing what's right, what's loving, compassionate, and careful.
Right. I totally agree. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people out there who need to be fighting the good fight. I'm just not one of them.
That's right. But I'm not saying that. But when you live a good life being generous rather than greedy, when you're caring and helpful instead of being a taker or a user, you are living the good life. Because that's what we're meant to do, and that's what we're here to be. I watched a very interesting movie the other night, because now right away I'm going to forget it. Oh, Astral City. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-mm.
Astral City. It was based on a book by a Brazilian, I think he's Brazilian or Bolivian channeler. And it's in Portuguese, but it's subtitled and it's on Amazon. Yeah, but it's about a doctor who dies and what happens to his spirit after he passes. It's very interesting.
Now, wait, this is an Amazon Prime movie? Or what did you say about it?
Yeah, Amazon Prime. It could be rented on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
And the name of the movie is Astral City. And you're in the astral planes. In the healing centers, the astral planes, that's where he ends up. But you see how he changes from a doctor who's self-interested and greedy into not understanding what the hell he's doing there, et cetera, et cetera. It's beautifully done, and I recommend it. And it's really what I'm talking about now.
So say it again one more time. And one of you folks who are on Facebook and or YouTube, could you just type this in the comment so that we have it? What is one more time? Because for me to go do that, I gotta.
Yeah, go ahead. It's Astral.
Okay.
ASTRAL City, and it's available on Amazon Prime. Okay, and it's really what I've been. Robert, you've seen it. It's a cool movie, yes, and it's really what I'm talking about. So if we get all involved in conspiracy theories and how bad things are and this and that, it takes us away from our purpose in life. And that's one of the lessons of the non-human intelligence who communicate with Earth people. Yeah. Yes, that's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. What are we fighting? If we do our best to be the best human beings that we can be, man, we're doing a heck of a lot to make this world a better place. In my family, with this COVID stuff, we're not getting together for the holidays. So I told my daughter, you want to give me a gift? Make a donation to a food bank. That'll be my gift. Because I don't need anything else. I have everything I need. Donate to a food bank. So I'm having my children do that. And she said, Mom, do the same for me. Donate. Doesn't have to be much, but it's giving something. I don't need another watch. I don't need another piece of jewelry or another handbag. So this is a tough time for everyone. So that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
So here's another comment by, did I say this already? Did I share this one?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yes. Just live our best selves and hope, right?
right. Right. So Anne mentioned something here that she's referred to before. Um, I think this came up in Jen's talk too.
Hmm.
So, what is the Galactic Federation of Light Beings?
The Galactic Federation is a federation of extraterrestrial intelligences or planets that have a higher, um, they're peaceful and they have the well-being of all in their hearts. And we're not even eligible to join the Federation because our planet is not peaceful. We don't live in a peaceful planet. And the Galactic Federation is a federation of planets of peace.
Get on that, President-elect Biden. Get on it.
Well,
Get
the point the point being is, do we care about our world? Do we care about our planet? Do we want to make our planet safe for our children and grandchildren? Or we don't care that it's destroyed? Do we care that the polar bears may be exterminated because of the drilling in Alaska and global warming? Those are the things that we can contribute to. We could contribute energy or money if we have it, to do the right things for our environment. Switch to cars that are more energy efficient when that we have the opportunity. These are things, the little things or the big things that everybody can monitor and everybody can contribute to. And this is what I'm hearing from those who have contact with extraterrestrial intelligences.
What they're imparting messages? Like, okay, give us an example of like a typical, when you do your investigation as an investigator for the MUFON.
Well,
How does that like from start to finish?
Okay, if people have had a contact experience either on a UFO or see an alien or an orb or whatever, and a lot of them are very isolated because a lot of people can't talk about this to anybody. Their family doesn't want to hear about them seeing orbs and extraterrestrials in their bedroom or being on a ship or whatever. They feel very isolated, and that's one of the big reasons people fill out the experiencer questionnaire. They send it in, it asks 30 questions about what they have experienced, yes or no, and Dr. George Medic, who's head of the research team, sends it out to whoever is the nearest team member to that person. And then I send out an introductory email to them, inviting them to talk. And I would say 70% of them take me up on that. And what happens is I get information about their experiences. And of course, my background is in therapy, psychotherapy. So I'm not a therapist to them, but I am a support person to them. And many of them are very, very frightened by their experiences. And in my book, in the prologue, I give a story of an encounter of two women in their 60s who were abducted off the porch of one of their houses. They were abducted together. And then they had no memory of it, except they remember looking down at their coffee, decaf coffee, and it was cold, whereas just a moment ago it was hot. They went to bed, never said a word, but the next day, one of them saw pictures on her iPhone of really strange things, including beings. They became very scared. They contacted MUFON. This was 2014. They both had regressive hypnosis and were even more frightened by what they remembered under hypnosis. A few years later, but in 2014, there was no team to help people like this. 4 years later, in 2018, one of them filled out an experiencer questionnaire, and I contacted her. And the two of them had the greatest, they were lovely, really great women, but they were very frightened when I first met them over the phone. They lived in another state far south from here. And I had lots and lots of contact, and I helped them come to terms with their experience. And their experience is in my book. And I think that is a very good example of how people, when something really weird and unusual happens to them, and they have no one to talk to. They have no one to share the experience with and help them make sense of it. I didn't tell them what happened to them, but I helped them understand their story. And that changed how they looked at this. Another account in the book is of a woman who got a healing on board a ship. She also was very frightened when she filled out her report, and I talked to her. And when she described the beings on her ship, the way she described them were beings I actually knew and had met. And I asked her, was she ill? She said, no, I wasn't ill. I was perfectly healthy. I was pregnant at the time. I said, okay. I sent it to a website with pictures of these beings. She said, oh my God, that's them. And I said, you weren't ill? She said, no, but I was pregnant. And the doctors diagnosed, they do a blood test, and told me my child was going to have Down syndrome. And they wanted me to abort. And I refused. I wasn't going to abort. And then later on in the pregnancy, she had blood tests again, and it showed your child has Down syndrome. We suggest you have an abortion. She said, no, I refuse. Well, she did deliver a baby, and it was healthy. And she was on a ship with the Nebulan healers. So that's one of the healings that occurs. There are many healings that occur through them and other beings, whether they're angelic but these are higher dimensional extraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm. So when you say that you help them understand their story, like what kind of things did you say to them? Did you say this consistent with other reports, or?
Well, I shared resources for them that they could look at. For instance, and I think I sent you, or you have in my book, the Foundation for Research in Extraterrestrial Extraordinary Experiences, the organization FREE.
Right.
That was started by Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the late Apollo 14 astronaut. He and several physicists started doing research on extraterrestrial intelligences. That was not his first organization. Edgar Mitchell was also part of the Institute of Noetic Sciences as well. He had seen extraterrestrial evidence on the moon. So he was a believer to begin with. They wrote about several things that their website, their book, Beyond UFOs, all explained a lot of stuff. So when the women had a chance to look at different papers and research and say, oh, that's what happened to me. One of the women had nodes. She was scheduled for surgery. She had nodes in her throat. And to examine on board ship would frighten her a lot. And when she came back and was scheduled for surgery, the doctor said, your nodes are much smaller. They shrunk. And surgery was very minor compared to more major. So putting together their experiences and looking at them a little bit differently really changed them. And that's a very common thing when people get a chance to talk about what scares them, and then to get a chance to talk to someone who is willing to listen, doesn't call them crazy, accepts what they have to say. If I can accept your story, if I can accept your story, then you could accept your story. Okay, I'm going to move me.
You're good.
There we go.
You're good.
I keep moving. There we go. If I could accept your story, I'm not centered. There I am more centered. If I could accept your story, then you could accept it.
Right.
But if I'm your mother and say, I don't want to hear about that stuff, don't tell me. Or there's a partner who says, listen, that's crazy. If they can't be accepted, they're not going to accept themselves. So accepting and then sharing with them. I also have there are many people on our team have experiencer groups. I have one that meets monthly, and people share their stories, and they're not alone anymore. And they find a common base of information, and they feel more comfortable with themselves and what happened, and then feel very fortunate that they've had those experiences.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the idea is to give support, just like any support group. Support groups form because people feel isolated and need to hear other people's stories that are similar or different, but at least related, so they can come to terms with it.
Right, right. Okay, so just to kind of summarize what we've talked about so far, so you were talking about how the majority of the ETs who we have contact with are reaching out basically to us to provide assistance for our
Mm-hmm.
and for our
World,
all of
our
us.
planet. Mm-hmm.
Because like us, we're all part of the same consciousness, and
Yes.
so we're all connected in that way. Obviously, they're
Mm-hmm.
at a different vibration than ours. So there's that, and then you mentioned the names of several different races of extraterrestrials. You mentioned the reptilians and what else?
The Pleiadians, the Arcturians,
right?
the Nordics, the
Gray,
Reticuli,
right?
the Mantis.
The mantis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah. So that's basically sort of the terms and the stuff that we went over, and then just generally just this whole notion of the ascension of the planet, and that we're not in such great shape right now. We're not being invited to the Galactic Federation of Light because we don't have our ship together, basically.
Yeah, we're still destroying ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So and the ETs I mentioned are only a tiny fraction of what's out there. There are many that I don't know the names to. I don't know where they're from. And let's face it, they don't speak English.
right.
So the communication is telepathic through pictures or not through English so much, but through thoughts that we could understand. Robin, you're interested in more info about the undersea beings. Okay. Are you talking about the ones on Earth or in other planets? Well, let me start out. When I had a regression, one of my first regressions in 2012, way before I got interested in UFOs, I went to a hypnotherapist who specializes in learning about what's in between your life. Why are you here? What is your purpose on life? And I wanted to find out my purpose in life. So I spent $600, which was a small fortune, traveled 4 hours to Maryland to see him, 4 hours back. And I got there tired, but okay, I'm open. I wanted to find out, why am I here on this earth? Good question. And I've read Brian Weiss's Life Between Lives and all kinds of books like that. And he put me in trance. I'm a very good trance subject because I've been hypnotized a lot. And he put me in trance, and the life I was some lifetime before this, I found myself swimming underwater like a mantis, like a manatee or a dolphin or some mermaid or something really weird. I can't even describe what it was, but I was living a life underwater, a weird creature underwater. I came out of trance. I said, what is that? I had no expectation of that. I didn't even know about UFOs or ETs. I said, what is that? He says, well, obviously you are a hybrid soul. I didn't know anything. I couldn't even understand what he was talking about. But in short, he said, we went back in trance and I found that my purpose in life was to be a peacekeeper. What is that? I don't know what that is either. What is a peacekeeper? I'm a therapist, so maybe I help people find peace within themselves. That's all I could think of. I couldn't get anywhere else. I couldn't get into any of the lifetimes. I couldn't contact, I couldn't find out any more of my purpose, and a total waste of money. I threw out the CD that he gave me of the recording. And I left it at that. I said, oh, forget about that. When I was in a manatee in another life. So I went to Dulce 5 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, and Barbara Lamb was there, and she does regressions. She was the speaker, and she talked about what she does in hypnosis with people who have reported abductions. So I read all her books and made an appointment for her to hypnotize me. And because I wanted to find out, hey, maybe I was a mantis. What was I? I didn't know. So she didn't have much time. She was flying out. And so I had a quickie hypnosis thing. And I'm lying on the bed in her room, and she says, and she puts me in trance, which I go into trance instantly because I've been a meditator for 20, 30 years. And I'm going into trance, and what happens in trance is that as she's putting me under, she said, rest your head and your eyes and your chin and your neck and your shoulders and your arms. My body was turning green. I was turning green. My hands were long and my fingers were thin and long and stretched out. And I said to her, I came out of trance in shock. I said, I'm turning into a praying mantis. Wow. I was scared out of my mind. This is not anything I thought of or expected or hoped for or anything. She said, no, you're not a mantis. You're not a mantis. Relax. She put me in again. She kept asking me what my eyes look like. And I couldn't tell her what my eyes looked like because I was looking out of my eyes. I wasn't seeing my eyes. I wasn't seeing, only part of my body I was seeing with my arms and my fingers or my hands. She put me in again, and I went in, and this time I was a little girl, and I was sitting on a big praying mantis lap, hugging him, being hugged, calling him daddy. I came out of trance again. I said, well, at least I wasn't scared this time. So what do you do? I can't believe. That was it. That was it. I said,
yeah. Well, I did.
Yeah, right.
Like I mentioned, I did that starseed reading with Jackie.
Yes, Jacqueline, right.
Yeah.
And she said
that I was dolphin.
Yes. What's the water world?
Yeah.
That is the water world. Exactly. Yes.
And I told her, I said, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I have dreams frequently that I'm underwater and I can breathe.
Yes.
And I said, and then I was like, I guess lots of people have that dream. And she's like, no,
No.
They don't. Not lots of people have dreams about that. She said, I think it's a memory.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. When I was many years ago, when I would go swimming, I couldn't swim above the water. I could only swim well underwater. Of course, I have to come up for air because I couldn't breathe in it. But that was the way I swam. I had a pair of fins and goggles, and loved swimming underwater and pretending I was Aquaman.
Aquaman.
Aquaman, yes. Because that's what I loved. And Jacqueline told me that yes, that I had a dolphin life, and I am very well acquainted with the dolphin beings.
Yeah,
So there you go.
and she gave me like these,
A mantra.
yeah, she's like, do it for 2 weeks and this and that, and I never did.
Well, okay. Well,
So I,
she told me I was a rainbow mantis, which is a very ancient form of mantis. And they were co-creators of the world, our planet. They established the ley lines. And she said, if you wish, she encouraged me. She gave me two mantras. One was to connect with the species, my tribe, you
uh-huh.
know, and the other one with my oversoul, my
Yeah,
larger
yeah, I think
self.
I have to go look at my notes. Yeah, I think she said the same thing.
Well, you know what? I said, but I did it. And now I'm in regular communication with my higher self.
Hmm.
And I get guidance from it. I call it him. I call it him more than her or whatever. I don't know why, because the mantis beings it's a feminine society. But that part of me is my higher self. And I get guidance. In fact, that's the part that pushed me into writing the book,
Hmm.
into doing a lot of stuff. So it's an opportunity, Brenda,
Yeah,
if you choose
yeah,
as a spirit guide or whatever to meditate on that mantra.
yeah. I gotta look it up. It's in one of my journals a
Mm-hmm.
few months back.
Yeah,
We have
right.
a question from Anne I want to get to, and then we'll wrap up a little bit, I think.
Okay.
What about the Dracos?
I don't know. The draconians. Well, that's a type of reptilian, isn't it? I don't know anything about them. I don't. They have a negative reputation.
Well,
As I said, just like as above, so below. There are those creatures or beings up there who are selfish and greedy. They want their way, they want control, and they're those beings that are a good match here on our planet for them, I guess. I don't know. But we certainly have enough people on our planet who are greedy, ruthless, narcissistic, um, who exist, well, I won't go into anymore, but who are negative and wish us harm. They don't care about anybody but themselves. So they have a match up there.
okay. All right. Well, actually, that reminds me. So
Yes.
um, when Maddie and I were speaking about, the topics tonight, and what kind of loose structure we wanted for the evening, we were thinking about a couple of different topics beyond just UFOs and extraterrestrials.
Mm.
We were considering including another topic tonight, but then thought that we would just run out of time, which was a good executive decision on my part because we would not have time to discuss the other topic. But the other topic that I think that you folks would be very interested in, and let me know in the comments if this is something that you would be interested in talking to Maddie about, is her experience of cults, her personally being in a cult, what that was like, and then her healing from that, and then just general questions and answers about the topic. She's spoken on the topic before, written on the topic, and I think it's a prescient topic. And I think most importantly for our community, for us as spiritual seekers, this is a very important topic, the topic of cults and
Influence.
influence and basically mind control,
Yes.
in some ways, because there's lots of quote gurus out there. And, I mean, when we find a spiritual path we're really excited about, and, we think that, this is
We
going
have the answer.
to some type of, higher consciousness or enlightenment, we're vulnerable, some of us, sometimes, to maybe an individual who really may not have our best interests at heart. So I think it would be helpful and just instructive, either for us personally or for folks that we counsel, to be aware of the red flags and that type of thing.
Yes,
What did you
this
want
is a very big issue now today. When one is seeking and one feels isolated and not understood by family and friends, and you're seeking a path that's different than the others or from the mainstream, and then you read about someone, you hear them, see them on YouTube, who promises you this or that, who seems to have the real deal. They're convincing, they appear loving and kind. They appear interested in your being and your spirituality. And if you only take their course or read their books, will come visit. The first visit is usually cheap. And then you get hooked and you find yourself investing more and more of your time and energy. And there's several right now in our world, here and abroad, who are ready and willing to take you by the hand.
Okay, so that's what I'm thinking, that we may want to have Mady back to talk to us about cults generally and those red flags we want to look out for, and this to have a discussion, have question answer, just similar to tonight. So that's kind of what we got cooking.
Yeah, write down your questions. If you want to hear more about that, great. And we could talk about influence, how it's easy to lose your mind and your money and your life. I did for 10 years.
Yeah.
All three of those things.
Right. So, the story is in her book, obviously, but, we can hear more about that too. So we will have Mady back again.
All right. Anytime.
And that'll be the next topic.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. All right.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mady. And again, until next time, I'm going to go ahead and let you go now and say goodbye.
Okay.
But I want.
All right. Well, it's great being here, and thanks for inviting me, Brenda. Anytime.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys. So, yes, a whole nother night with Mady. That was great. And I really appreciate all of your questions and your participation. Thank you for being such good and involved viewers and listeners. It's so good to know that you are very welcome, Susan. And thank you for joining us here at Spirit Throw Me a Bone. So I believe this is your first time with us. So everyone, please welcome Susan, and we hope to see you here again. So I want to let you know, guys, what's coming up. Next Sunday, it is the last Sunday of the month. You know what that means. So the last Sunday of the month, we get silly, guys, don't we?
Christmas is just around the corner.
We're having a special Christmas holiday celebration. We're in our karma. We'll think of some fun stuff to do, but probably just Steve Puntero. But if it's hanging out, dancing, talking.
A gingerbread woman and a gingerbread man in a gingerbread house and all. Christmas is just around the corner. Coming up, just around the bend.
So guys, that'll be next week, next Sunday. Well, hello there, Mr. Steve Ayton. Throwback from 1980-ish. I'm glad you enjoyed the discussion, and I'm so glad you joined us tonight here on Spirit Throw Me a Bone. Everybody welcome Steve to our community. Yep. The one and only Reverend Rob Banashak, he's in the queue for next Sunday. Again, our co-host. Looking forward to it. And everybody have a very happy Merry Christmas. Hang with me just a minute. I just wanted to remind you, please, to like and follow on STMB on Facebook. That's our page. Whoop, what happened to my camera there? And then YouTube. Like and subscribe on YouTube. So, I don't know why it keeps going to that camera. You guys, we do need to open the circle tonight. I sort of really very kind of on the fly created a circle. So we got to open the circle back up and then we will say goodbye. So just hang tight with me for one moment while we go do that and then we'll say goodnight. There we go. So we created sacred space. We created the sacred container, the energetic container that we were all together in tonight. And so now we're going to release that circle so we can ground ourselves fully back into our bodies and get a good night's sleep. So here we go. We're going to go in the opposite direction to release the circle. By the earth that is her body, well, thank you, North. By the waters of her living womb, thank you, West. By the fire of her bright spirit, thank you, South. And by the air that is her breath, thank you, East. Ooh. As above, so below, the circle is open. Ooh.
Well, here we go around again.
Thank you again, guys, for joining us tonight. And thank you again, Mady, for sharing your information and your humor and your stories. And we really appreciate it when you join us here on Spirit Throw Your Bone. Thank you, all of you who joined us tonight and threw out your questions and your comments. I feel so fortunate to have such an engaged community, and I really appreciate you. And I hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful Christmas. Also, you know, tomorrow is the winter solstice in the great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. It's really a magical, enchanted time. And what do we know about the winter solstice? It's the return of the light, the celebration of the return of the light. So, it's a big turn of the karmic wheel, of the wheel of the year. Something to be celebrated for sure. So, until next week, until the same enchanted time and the same enchanted channel, be well, be true, be sacred, be you. Bye-bye.
You and I, they are closely tied. We're of the same constellation. That's how we make it through the night. I'm right here with you. We made a vow, kept it right from the start, to help extract the poison from our medicine hearts. Oh, I just wanna thank you for doing your part. I promise you that I'll always do mine. So in all our emotions, we've made a web, our patterns woven, we're common threads. There is nothing you could do to shake me loose. I've got you, I'm not leaving. So go climb your mountain and know your name. The call you answer springs from the same flame I do. And as you take your leave, just know they fall, they fly into the deep. I'm right here with you. Everywhere you go, I'm right here with you. Everywhere you go, I'm right here with you. In case you needed to know if I was here, I'm right here with you. We're like the stars in the sky. They are made of light, and just like you and I, they are closely tied. We're of the same constellation. That's how we make it through.